Hey guys, welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about why modern dating feels so broken in 2026. First thing I'm going to highlight is the effects of social media. So what you have to understand now is that the average woman that has social media, she's going to have a plethora of options of men messaging her, sending her DMs, sending her requests to go on dates with her. And this is something that has never been experienced before in human history. So what used to happen back in the day, say back in the 80s, say before the internet came about, a woman's, I guess, optionality would say be like a small triangle like this. You know, she would be at school or uni. She might meet some guy there, or she might be out in just the local sort of town that she's in. Maybe she's at a bar, or maybe she's at a nightclub. And then this would be, say, like friends, family, and the neighborhood. So her, I guess, triangle of options was very, very small, very tight knit. And again, this is before the likes of the internet and social media. Now, what has happened is that a woman's triangle of options is now like this. Reason being now is because, again, like I said, if you're an average looking girl or a decent looking girl for that matter, and you've got some type of social media, and let's just say, you live in Melbourne, you not only have options of men through this little circle here, like they did back in the 1980s. Now your triangle is on a world stage. Legit, this girl here would be getting messages from not only from high value men from around Australia, but high value men from all over the world. And that's who you're competing with. This is something that hasn't been studied yet, but this is what's happening. I mean, I've heard of some stories through my research. There could be girls that are 18, 19, 20 getting flown out to Dubai, getting flown out to Monaco, the Formula One. Never seen before activity that's occurring right now in the dating market. And that's why a lot of young men feel disenfranchised in the dating market, because you could be a straight up guy, you could be looking after your health, you could be at uni trying to complete a certain degree to get a good job, or you could have a good job and working towards trying to earn a high income to try and become that guy to take care of a woman or a wife. And you could be in your mid-20s to late 20s, early 30s, mid-30s, but unless you're a man of high caliber, unless you're a man of high status, of high importance, of high excellence, really you're going to struggle having optionality in today's dating market, because this is literally the dating market now. The dating market is literally the world stage. You're competing with the best of the best men, and I'm talking, sports stars, NBA, NRL, AFL, soccer superstars. I think there was a young kid, Jamal. So I'm not really a big soccer fan, but there's a kid that plays for Spain, and he's like 19 years old, and he literally just DM'd this girl that was in a relationship for 5 years with this guy, and he sent her a DM, and she obviously is now with him. That's literally how easy it is nowadays for these high value men to, I guess, get access to pretty much any woman they want. So where does that leave you? Like I said before, unless you are a man of excellence, unless you're a man of high status, unless you're a man that's working on himself, like, I'm gonna just list just some of the things that, these are just the basics that women are looking out for. So we've got tall, height. Now look, a lot of men aren't gonna change that unless you're wearing, high heel sort of soles. But, naturally you're not gonna be able to sort of work on your height unless you get, I've heard of some stories where men are getting like their shins heightened, which, I guess, everyone is, making their own decisions, but that to me might be a bit far-fetched. But again, I'm a tall kind of guy, so I wouldn't know how it feels to be short. But for you short kings out there, if you aren't tall, then you're just gonna have to work on your wealth and status. Good looks. Again, you can improve on your existing looks, but unless you get some type of surgery, which I'm not advocating you do, you're gonna have to improve your looks to some degree in order to have optionality in today's dating market. So I'm talking, be groomed well, get a good haircut that suits your face and your head. I for one, I am a little bit lazy. This sort of haircut, not sure if it suits me or not, but it's just a very quick and easy kind of hairstyle, because I'm a busy person. So for me, just getting my hair done within a few minutes is ideal. But I should probably look at, going to a stylist and potentially, having a look at some options of different hairstyles. But you'd be surprised at what a hairstyle can actually do to your face, your structure, and your features. Wealth, status, and here's just excellence. It's not enough for you to just be yourself. Like, you have to continually, every day, work on yourself. If that means, working on your physique, working on your looks, working on your finances, working on your confidence, which we'll get to number 2, approaching, working on your status. And you'll notice that, like, once you start hitting those sort of targets, everything else synergistically will sort of come together. So number 2, men are afraid to approach. And I'll tell you why. I've done a lot of approaching in my life. I have been very successful in some cases and not so successful in others. And trust me, I've actually gone through the whole spectrum of, being that alpha in her eyes, that alpha Chad, and then being just like a loser and not getting a response or being stood up. Like, I've experienced all areas, spectrum. So, the spectrum I'm talking about is, you might be an alpha guy, say here, A, and then there's, say here for loser. And most men would probably experience this side of the spectrum where they lose at, getting a girl's number, getting a date. They just lose. And the alphas, this would be your top 5% of men. But even some men like that are alphas, they might have the looks, the height, the wealth, but they might flop when it comes to going out on a date with a woman. But not pretty much like 95% of men are going to fall into this category, where like if you're just average, you're literally just going to get an L every time you approach. So nowadays, especially in Australia, I notice men are definitely afraid to approach. Reason being is because they're scared of rejection, fearful of rejection, and they have that approach anxiety, which every man will experience because they're afraid to stuff it up. All right? But this needs to change. And if I was you, I would potentially partner up with a friend of yours and go out, go to coffee shops, go into town, and literally just practice your approach. One of the things that I say which work really well, even though it hasn't equated to a date yet because they have said that they've had boyfriends, which again, not sure if they're telling the truth or not, but you give them the benefit of the doubt, is say you see a woman that you find attractive, right? What I've done lately, which works really well, and it's very gentlemanlike, it's not a trick, there's no magic, it's just literally breaking the ice. So you see her, you might notice she, won't give you any eye attention. Look, if a girl makes it easy for you, she will look at you, but majority of the time, like you're kind of invisible to them. So the last few girls I've approached, I've literally just walked up and said, hey, excuse me, I've noticed you from over there. I wanted to come and introduce myself. My name is George. Bang. And the last few approaches, they've actually been very pleasant. They've said, hey, my name is such and such. And I said, oh, cool. And you sort of engage with the conversation very briefly. You might say, oh, what are you up to tonight? What are you up to today? They might say, oh, hey, I'm just hanging out with some friends, getting a coffee. Then you keep it very short, sharp and shiny. And then you might say, look, I don't want to hold you up, but maybe I can grab your number, we can organise and go on a date. Bang, that's it. Short, sharp and shiny. And what you want to do is you want to rehearse this as well. Like you don't want to just see a woman and just, because you're going to go up and you're going to feel nervous, but the more you recite it, the more easier it will become when you actually approach. So now I've got it down pat. So I haven't done it in a few weeks, so I might be a bit nervous the next time I see a girl that I like. But that there is like a classic gentleman bang, going in for the kill. Number 3, women encouraged to appear uninterested, nonchalant. Yeah, this is very big, especially if you are, in Australia or any type of Western country, because of social media and women have an abundance amount of options. You will find that women, and not only that, women are encouraged to appear uninterested, nonchalant, meaning like they don't really care. So even if a woman is single and she's in her prime, you might be a good suitor for her, but because she has an overabundant options on social media and she's been taught to act nonchalant, uninterested, there's no, I wouldn't say there's no point approaching, you definitely do approach, but you'll find most of the time you're just going to get an L. Like you just get shut down. She might say, look, I'm not interested, or say, hey, look, I've got a boyfriend, and she'll kind of shut you down, all right? Or she'll just keep walking and ignore you. This happens a lot. I've noticed it a lot, especially the last few years. So yeah, it is discouraging for men. Like if you're a young man and you haven't attempted to approach, I'm telling you now, if you don't approach, there's no chance, unless you get like sort of an arranged marriage, there's no chance of you getting into the dating market at all. So approaching is like where it's at, you have to do that. People looking for perfection, not compatibility. So this is a big one as well. So I've actually heard of some stories where women especially, I've heard of them divorcing their husbands simply because their husbands can't afford to give them a lifestyle that these said women have seen on social media. So a lot of the times now, people are looking for the perfect lifestyle, people are looking for the perfect person, the perfect body, the perfect face, and that's just not viable. It's just impossible to find that. You might find that the woman might be a 7 out of 10 in terms of your criteria. You might have to just, I guess, within reason, compromise. But to try and find a woman that is a 10 out of 10, long shot, it's a fat chance that that's going to happen. I'm not even saying that for myself. I'm not looking for a 10 out of 10. I've got 2 or 3 main things that are non-negotiables, but the rest, personality and stuff like that, you just have to make do. But yeah, so a lot of women especially, because of all these romance novels, because of social media, because of comparison as well, and like I said, a lot of women especially, they're on social media, they're seeing maybe their girlfriend or their favorite influencer getting flown out to certain places, and they're sitting at home thinking, why isn't my life like that? And the people that aren't married, those other younger women or older women that are looking for a spouse, they're only looking for that top tier guy that can give them a lifestyle that they've seen on social media. So again, this is cooking sort of the dating market at the moment. Why attraction alone isn't enough for marriage. So yeah, this is a big one as well. So a lot of people now, they're basing being with someone based on their physical appearance, and don't get me wrong, I'm a pretty picky guy as well. I want to make sure that when I do find that woman, she is desirable in my eye, because at the end of the day, once you do get married, you're going to have to sleep with that person. So you want to make sure obviously beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so you want to make sure she's pleasing to you. Now look, appearance and hotness comes in all shapes and sizes, and it's different to different people. So for example, I might find a woman that's very attractive, you might not, and vice versa. So, and that's not enough for a marriage to work. A lot of people now, I think the divorce statistics are 50%, and they reckon another 30% are people that are just unhappy in their marriage, and they reckon only 20 or even 10% of people that are actually happily married. So attraction isn't enough for your marriage to work. There has to be other things like, personality, core values, being on the same level in terms of your faith. I'm an Orthodox Christian, so it only makes sense for me to find either A, Orthodox Christian woman, or B, a Christian that will convert to Orthodoxy. That's a non-negotiable for me. I can't be with someone that isn't on that faith. I remember going to a talk at the Antiochian church, and they had their Archbishop down from Sydney, and I remember vividly he said, men, or there was girls there as well, but he said, guys, you're best off finding someone that you share the same values and that you share the same faith with. Because if you don't, he didn't say word for word, but this is just sort of what he was saying roughly. He goes, it won't work otherwise. And I agree with that as well. So attraction alone isn't enough. And how can men stand out is number 6. Again, I've kind of just, highlighted what men can do. But essentially what you need to do is you need to become the best version of yourself. And as a man, unfortunately, we aren't born with our value. When I say we aren't born with our value, a woman, for example, she can be pretty young, fertile, and she could pretty much have her pick of any man. But as a man, unless you are chasing excellence, unless you have some type of status, wealth, you're tall, you're good looking, you're confident, you're charming, you're charismatic, you have all these accolades, the optionality you will have in terms of choosing a spouse is going to be very minimal if you don't have this stuff. Now, if you don't have this stuff, I'm telling you, it's going to be difficult for you to find what you want. You might still be able to find someone, but it's not going to be, out of, say, for example, if you, like, I know there's a lot of men out there, like I know personally, a guy that's in the top 5% in terms of his tall, good looking, has wealth, confident, charismatic, and he literally has women chasing him. Like he's doing the opposite of what most men are doing. And that's the position that you want to put yourself in. And now I'm not advocating, I'm a Christian man, been living a Christian life the last few years. I'm not advocating you use those powers to, sleep with a bunch of women. However, that there, you want to put yourself in that position so you have optionality, so you could pick a woman that you see yourself marrying and court her and then obviously get married to her. So yeah, that's very important as well. And yeah, that's pretty much